Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. For the game Rangers of Shadow Deep, the more terrain you can have, the better. And one of the things that is useful to have, particularly in some of the early scenarios, is houses, hovels, small shacks, particularly ones where you can remove the roofs and actually put miniatures inside. I didn't have anything like that, but one of my subscribers, John Middleton, recommended the Fabled Realms kits from 4Ground. So when I had an opportunity, I put in an order for 2 of their Mordanburg backstreet hovels. This is number 2 and number 4. And I thought I would do a quick video showing my effort to assemble the first of the 2 kits. If you've never seen these before, they're really nice. They are completely wooden. You will need PVA glue to put them together, but they are painted in sections. The different components are painted different colours, so you don't technically have to paint them. You can put them together and use them as is. If you want to, you can add more paint to them afterwards, but I'm actually not going to bother. This is the kit we're going to be making here, and I should point out that I am recording audio over my fumbling attempts to put this kit together, so I'm not talking in real time. But you can see here, this is the kind of instructions you get for these Fabled Realms 4Ground kits. It's pretty straightforward stuff. You will need PVA glue. It's useful to have elastic bands. A sharp craft knife can help to get some of the wooden components out. But that's about it, really. So these are actually the interior walls, and the light side of these walls are actually pre-painted. You can see there's actually cracks in the plaster. Really nicely done. And all of these components have already been cut. They've all been laser cut. So you just need to push them out. Because of the way they are still connected to the main boards, a sharp craft knife can help just to make sure you get them out without breaking them or having any bits splinter off. You can see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take out the interior floorboards, which you can see have been engraved on, so there's a nice pattern inside, because both of these buildings that I purchased, you can actually remove the roofs and they have opening doors, so you can actually move miniatures into the buildings, which, like I say, there's a couple of scenarios in Rangers of Shadow Deep where it's something you can do where you can actually have things inside buildings, so you can have your heroes move into them to explore. You can see what I'm doing here with the craft knife is I'm just finding the little connector points and I'm just giving them a little push, just so we can pop them out. They do come out pretty easily anyway, but you just want to make sure that you're not going to actually break anything. There are a few of the components a little bit later on, like the door frame, which are very thin, very fragile, so you just need to be really careful. And of course, when using a craft knife, you need to be really careful not to cut your hand off. But these pieces are really well cut. They are meticulously done. It's precision engineering. And I was very impressed with how all of these different components fitted together. Also, I was very impressed with how clever the kits were in the way they are constructed. They have like a sandwich construction. So first of all, what we're doing is we've got the floorboards and we're going to punch out the interior walls, which have the cracks for the plaster. And then what we will do is we will wrap another layer of wooden decoration around that original construct. And then we will stick on more detailing again. So here we have our 4 interior walls punched out along with the floorboards. And what we need to do, I'm just doing a little dry fit there just to make sure I've got it all right. But what we need to do is apply some PVA glue, some wood glue, to the connecting edges. It's worth noting that when you are applying the PVA glue, you want to try not to get it onto painted areas, because it can actually lift the paint off. But I'm just putting some elastic bands around this structure now. You can see the 4 walls are attached around the base. And a few elastic bands will just hold it in place and make sure that we get a good clamped glued fit. Next up, we're actually going to make the outer structure of the house. So we have a second base that the part that we've already built will sit on top of. And then we have these really nice etched wooden beam designs which will go all around the outside of the house. They will clad the exterior and just make it look like it's been all constructed with wooden beams. And what I'm doing each time is I'm laying them out in a pattern so that I don't make any mistakes in how I'm putting it together. The instructions, there's no words or anything with the instructions. The instructions are entirely done with pictures, but all the components are numbered and the instructions are pretty clear, pretty straightforward. I do make some mistakes a little bit later on because this was my first ever attempt at one of these kits, but I will point out those mistakes as we get to them. You can see what I'm doing here is I'm sandwiching that original construction that we did with the outer wooden beams, making sure there's enough glue on there to hold it all together. And once we have all four sides on, we're going to need to clamp it again. So it's back to the elastic bands. It does actually show using elastic bands in the instructions. I only had very small, thin elastic bands, so I used loads, but a few thicker elastic bands will be fine. And when it's all dry, it's already looking pretty good. But these kits come with these little internal sections, and those just punch out really easily, and then you have to glue them between the wooden beams. And again, those little pieces are painted, so it will give you a nicer finish than just the bare wood. It is possible to go afterwards and paint them again if you want them a different colour. But I was so impressed with what they looked like when it was finished, I'm not even going to bother. So I'm just chucking some glue on here. I put a little bit too much glue on here, really. It will spludge out the sides a little bit. But as long as you've got a bit of kitchen roll or something so you can wipe off any excess. The pieces are very precise. As long as you take your time and you're methodical with your approach, you shouldn't make any mistakes. And when you've done one side, it looks like that. Before we do the side with the door, we need to put a little archway in the door, because these kits have thought of everything, and there is this little decorative arch with a little filigree design type symbol etched into it. So I'm just going to push that out carefully with a knife. And then just with a little bit of PVA, stick it into the door frame. And then we're back to these little internal sections, and I'm going to stick these onto the remaining 3 walls. Just being careful to get each piece in the right place. Next up, we're going to do the windows. You get little barred windows, and there's one boarded up window that you can use if you want to as an alternative. I just did a little dry fit here just to make sure that the fit was good, and you can see that the fit is immaculate. I cannot overstate how impressed I was with the precision of these engineered components. Really very, very good. This isn't one of those kits where you're going to have to do a lot of filing and dry fitting and repositioning of things. Or at least not in my experience, and since I recorded this footage I have assembled the second house as well, and it went together just as easily. And you can see that's a really nice finish there. It really adds something. Nice detailing to actually have the interiors of the windows, because they could have just left them as openings. So to finish the lower part of the house, we need to do the door. There's a really nice engraved door. If you wanted to, you could go in and paint the metal parts of that. The kit does come with its own little door handle, which is the tiniest part in the kit, and something you may well need a knife just to push out carefully. And that little door handle will just fit with a little drop of glue. And then we have the door frame. This is the most delicate part of the kit. The frame is actually 4 components. There's the 2 frame parts, and then there's a top bar and a lower bar. And you can see there's little holes in the top and bottom bars, and that's because the door will actually be able to swing open and closed when it's all assembled, which is a nice little touch. Again, something that isn't absolutely necessary, but a nice little detail. So I'm just applying a small amount of wood glue here, and then I am sandwiching the 2 halves of the frame together. And we're going to glue on the top bar as well. We're not going to do the bottom bar yet because we need to put the door in once the glue has dried. But this top bar will help to hold this frame together. And it just slots in. When that glue is dry, you can see we just push the door in. It's got a little nodule at the top and the bottom that will fit into the 2 holes. And I'm going to place it on the bottom bar, which I'm still not gluing at this point. At this point, once you've got this construction together, you can squeeze the sides of the door frame and it will all hold together whilst you apply some glue. And you will see that there is a perfect sized hole inside the house. So again, we just need a little bit of glue on the surfaces that are going to connect. Being careful not to get it all inside the hinge side of the door, because you don't want the glue to actually weld the door shut. By the way, I have no idea whether this video is going to be interesting to anybody, but I was so impressed with these kits, I wanted to show them off on the channel. I really think they're great kits. And if you are looking for some, these are 28mm scale, but they'll obviously work with 32mm as well. But if you're looking for some little houses, and in fact, 4Ground do also make bigger houses. There are some that have 2 floors, there are townhouses. And it's nice to have kits that you can put together and not have to worry about painting. So I just wanted to show them on the channel. Hopefully somebody will find this interesting. We now have to move on to the roof because the lower part of the house is finished. And this is where things go a bit wrong and a comedy of errors will ensue. Eagle-eyed viewers will probably pick up on the errors as I make them. But first of all, I'm popping out these 2 gable ends, which again are painted on one side and not on the other, but that's mainly just because they are on the same boards as the walls. There's not really a point where you're going to see the interior of those gable ends. And then we have these very nicely detailed roof panels. We have 2 of these. So I need to glue them together, and already people are probably shouting at the screen because what I am doing is I am attaching the gable ends so that the painted surfaces are facing outwards. That's not really a problem in as much as you won't see the insides of the gable ends, but what it does mean is when you come to glue things to the painted surfaces, the paint can peel away, which means you get a less secure bond. So you should make it so that these gable ends are facing inwards. The second thing that I'm sure people have noticed is that I am sticking the roof panels on upside down, and I do not notice that for quite some time. But yes, these roof panels, they are trapeziums, and they should get wider at the top and narrower at the bottom, but I have put them on upside down because I'm an idiot. The gable ends go together like the walls of the lower part of the house, so you get the exterior wooden beams to attach, and they go on, and then you have little panels to stick between them. But this was the point where I realised that I had put the gable ends on backwards, so I reversed those before I applied the wooden beams, and then stuck on the little interior sections. I don't know how much of a problem it would have been leaving it with the painted sides the other way round, but like I say, the paint does have a tendency to peel away with the glue, so I was concerned about that, so made sure I reversed it. And it looks really nice once they're all in. And now we've got to put together the chimney, which again is all pre-cut and pre-etched and goes together perfectly. And you may be looking at that roof in the background and thinking, how did I not notice that massive gap at the top? But it's because there is a beam that sits across the top, and I thought it was designed to go like that. Fortunately, after sticking together the chimney, I do suddenly realise my mistake with the roof, and I realise it before the glue has had a chance to really set hard. So I do actually manage to separate the roof again and put the roof panels the right way up as I attach the top bar. But here I am just putting the last part on the top of the chimney. And here we fast forward through a little bit of blundering about, and you can see that I've put the top bar on the house. I have realised my error and I have corrected the roof, and now the final stage is to attach the chimney. That little bar on the top of the roof is actually 3 parts. They all clip together to create a sandwich that actually locks around the top of the house, and you just put a bit of glue underneath it. Again, a very clever piece of engineering, and it looks really nice. Or at least it does once you've got the roof the right way up. So with the chimney on, that is it finished, and I think that's a very impressive piece of work. I'm very happy with that, and I'm not going to do anything else other than I have been recommended to spray them to stop any paint rubbing off of them, so I will be doing that with a varnish. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have liked the video, please consider pressing that like button. If you've really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.